Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Wednesday One Shots, where Curtis just asked me, "We still do those?" It's like we missed 1 week. We didn't. We didn't.
If you miss
We're
one of
back.
anything, Curtis will just lay into you and think it's over. That's the end of it. Simple as that.
That's true. We also haven't talked about it, and I don't know if he saw this. He wasn't in the chat when I was talking about this with some other folks today, but I was like, I want to talk about it with the guy I watched it with last night. So today, Sean and I are talking about the new movie Jackpot, starring Aquafina and John Cena, from Paul Feig. I don't know how to say his
Big.
name.
Oh, I
Feig,
believe it is.
on Amazon Prime Video. So Sean, before we get into, I feel like you can say this because this is what got us to talk about it and maybe watch the show. How did what take us through the moments of how we got to watching this last night?
We hung out last night and you were just scrolling through things, and I remember you saying, I don't know what I'm looking for, basically. And we were just, that's how we usually are when we hang out. And you passed Jackpot on the menu. And that morning or the evening before, my cousin Alan, he does watch a lot of the stuff that we do on the Legend Daddies channel and stuff. He sends me this clip, and it has John Cena, and he's got the TURTLE power from Partners in Crime from the first Ninja Turtles movie playing in the scene. And I at first I thought this obviously is just somebody did this and it's a fake. And then I'm like, wait a minute, that could be that movie. And then we were like, well, let's check it out. So here we are.
Okay, so spoiler alert, it was that movie. It was not a tweaked thing that Sean saw. We'll get into actual spoilers a little bit later, but just up
Mm-hmm.
front, this was kind of on a whim. I'd been seeing the banner for this for the past week or two, and I was like, man, the promo art for this looks ridiculous. Like it just was very bad promo art, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Graphically was not very interesting. But I was like, I like both of these actors. Like, we've watched some stuff with John Cena together, and stuff with Aquafina. You know, we've both seen a lot of the stuff she's been in recently, and it was just like, all right, let's give it a shot. So basic premise, real quick, is it's shortly in the future, the very near future. Money has become such a problem that California has instituted the what did they call it? The Grand Lottery,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of like the Purge. Like, whoever wins the lottery, I believe it was once a month, there's the Grand Lottery,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody gets to know who won, and you can kill the winner of the lottery, and claim their jackpot as long as you do it before sundown, and you don't use bullets or, like, ammunition, like that kind of ammunition. So we start this movie and we're like, what are we watching?
It's definitely a different take on things. Like when I hear jackpot, it's like, yeah, you would think it has to do with the lottery, but when you put it into terms like that, and you have this dystopian, idiotic society sort of thing, the way they created it, you're just sitting there going, what the heck is going to happen next in this thing? It's nuts.
And I've not watched it yet, but it made me think a lot of what I've heard about the movie Idiocracy, in a
I've
way, just
seen it.
because it's
Hmm.
so backward. Like, some of the stuff is so weird. And, a lot of people have, for the past 10 years, I've had different friends telling me, we're living in Idiocracy now. We're
Hmm.
living in Idiocracy now.
Yes.
And this movie feels very ridiculous and over the top in the best of ways, but it's like, short of, like, legalizing murdering someone for one day, a
Hmm.
lot of the stuff that happens in this movie does not feel that far-fetched.
Surprisingly, that was something about it that I know I mentioned to you at least two different times in the movie, probably even more. I lost count, but it was the kind of movie where I was surprised that it had heart to it, and the
Mhm.
way they brought it about is really nice because they have all this insanity around you, but it's really about the Aquafina and John Cena character and their connection, and the fact that both of them come from screwy pasts, but here they are finding two people in the insanity that is this future who actually can rely on each other. And that's something they've never known before, which I thought was really cool. And just in general, the way the writing worked in the movie, I know I said this at least twice too, and you were smiling and nodding along, was I was really impressed by the way that if they made a call out somewhere in the beginning of the movie, then it would play itself out and it would pay off later on, which for me, that is something I appreciate when a script does that. Because, if you're going to make these references in the movie, if you don't pay it off later on, what was the point? Within this little, 2-hour timeline, let's pay off things. And it really did go there more than a couple times. So, on that level, I was pleasantly surprised and happy.
Yeah, so the basic premise is, so Aquafina's character has just moved back to LA. She wins the lottery basically by accident without getting into spoilers. And John Cena is a freelance protection agent to keep her alive till the end of her day, where she can claim the win, and he gets a cut. And like you said, they're both of their stories are a bit ridiculous, and the whole movie is a bit ridiculous conceptually, but and they don't get into like the real seriousness of either of their characters straight out of it. They let you just kind of be like, they're almost cartoon characters, and the depth, like, it develops over the movie. Like, you get to learn that with the characters, and I thought that was really cool. And a really fun way to build this just really fun. And there's some really fun action sequences in this movie, like the whole first scene when you realize everybody, so they have these little lottery tickets. Instead of like a scratch off, it's electronic with like GPS and stuff, so it immediately starts letting people know where the winner is. So not only do you have to survive, but like it's like the Hunger Games in reality. Like, you're constantly, information is getting fed to everyone who's trying to kill you.
Yep.
So people immediately start to turn on her, and that whole situation and the setup of where she is, it sets up, we were both cracking up so much because it's just all these like kind of like blonde Barbie actresses going in for an audition that she was trying out for, so she immediately felt out of place with them.
Yeah.
And then it stumbles into a yoga class and a martial arts class on her first floor, and that's when John Cena eventually shows up. It's just absurd. And there's a couple of moments where it's just fun, over the top action, but there's some hits in there that we were both like,
yeah, there were definitely, and they did that hit, the one in particular that you and I kept going, ooh, too. They did that more than once in the movie, so I think they were enjoying having that be something they kept doing. The thing about it that amused me on a whole bunch of levels is anytime they make a movie like this where it's these random people, just like hot dog vendors, ice cream truck drivers, moms with their babies and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, when the alert goes off that this lottery, there is a winner, and here's who it is, and the drone is flying around giving people the GPS, like you said, of the winner. There is something funny about how every single person just automatically goes, and they're like a stone cold murderer now.
yeah.
And it's surreal, but it also it's surreal, it's funny, and it's also chilling, because I feel like we've gotten to a point where we've kind of seen all of those moments play out in reality now, and it is like, yeah, it's kind of close to home depending what way you're looking at it from. But I personally like the minute you see those, like they're all like Barbie actresses, but then out of nowhere they just start doing crazy martial arts to like get her and stuff, and like wrapping their purses around her and this and that, and throwing high heels that actually
Like
embed themselves into the wall, and it's like, oh my god,
it's like right out of Shaft when he throws his badge at the
he throws the badge
wall.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I feel like we might be about to wander into some spoilers, so just we'll pause real quick here, folks. We're right before the 10-minute mark. Spoiler alert. We're going to get into some details about this. Hopefully we won't spoil like the whole ending or major details, but we're going to get into some of the details here for a couple minutes. I got to say my favorite thing, which is a weird sentence to say before what I'm about to say. It's going to make me sound like a horrible person. But during, was it the yoga or the martial arts class when they take the belt or whatever and they just towel whip the one girl? Like
Yeah.
that it just cracked me up because it was just such it fit the moment perfectly, but it was just like, I never would have thought to put that in a movie.
Well, I mean, the whole martial arts sequence was funny to watch. I mean, the fact that you have John Cena landing in this martial arts dojo, and he literally wraps Aquafina to his back to protect her, almost like a papoose. With he had one of the belts from one of the guys at the martial arts dojo, and he just starts fighting people off that way. And that was just, it made me think of like Luke and Yoda kind of thing, Empire Strikes Back or whatever. And he just like he straps her in really tight, and just the look on his face when it's all going on, and it just, that part got me.
And to cut back to your initial thing that got us to pull this in, like, so this is only a couple years in the future, so we're close to his character's age in this movie.
Yes, yeah,
roughly. And to think that like he comes on, like you meet his character listening to that song in his apartment or his studio or whatever, getting ready, and he's got the figures and like he's get him stuff ready. So he's like this, it's almost like you took me a couple years ago to see was it Central Intelligence, where The Rock was the chubby kid in high school and he got embarrassed in front of everybody, but he ends up being this like big badass CIA agent, but he's like really still like just this really like bright, cheery, chummy guy. I feel like Cena's kind of like that in this, where he's got this real effervescent personality, but like Aquafina doesn't want to have anything to do with him.
I agree completely. Like, and he even did like The Rock did in Central Intelligence, where there's barely a moment in the movie where he's negative. He has a few moments here where it's like his optimism lowers somewhat, but at the end of the day, he is a very positive character. And it's the same way like The Rock would just be smiling almost all the time. I got my fanny pack, chicken. I love unicorns and all that stuff. And it's almost the same thing.
Pop, knock a guy out. He's like, hey, you want to go get a burger?
Yeah. And that's like, thank you to my cousin for this, because I saw, he sent it to me, like I said, it was probably Thursday night or Friday or something. And yesterday morning I watched it and I'm like, John Cena is fighting people tied to a chair, and he's actually saying the lines from Turtle Power, the song. And I'm like, you and I and our friend Andrew are the only people I've ever met who actually know those lines as well as he did in that scene, which makes me go, cred, so much cred. And the fact that he's got the figures there while he's getting dressed in his apartment and all, like you're talking about. I wanted so bad for her to say something like, so like, what are you going to do with the money? And him to say something along the lines of, I really want that 4-pack of Mondo turtles that just came out, or the Mezco pack or whatever. Just think it like it's some ridiculous like $400 to $500 thing on the aftermarket, or by then it'll be $1,000. He's just like, I'm kind of hoping to get that. I missed it out on the pre-order, just have something like you and I would even connect harder on that level.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I like when you see the turtles on his desk, I don't know if they were the original ones from, the late 80s, early 90s that I mean, it was the same molds and everything. I know they've reissued them recently. Super nerd talk here. But it was nice because I think at least one, or I think only had a couple of them, but they didn't have their belts.
Yeah.
So it looked like, all right, this guy has had these for a long time. Like it was a nice touch. It wasn't like in I think we both watched the Goldbergs at different points when they'd have like C3PO and R2 like as a cutout in the video rental store. And it wasn't the right era. It's like that's clearly from the prequel era. Like it just exactly. So it was a very small detail. Most people probably wouldn't have noticed it, but as Super Turtles fans like we are, is what we really bonded over 30 something years ago. it was nice to see that little detail and just like, okay, we like this guy. And like you said,
Yeah.
he's so positive. He's such an over the top character, but the whole movie's kind of over the top, but he feels real. Like he's
Hmm.
genuine and sincere. And they get into some, like you said, there's a couple of down parts with him, but like there's some like he's genuine heart and connection with people amongst this ridiculous setting, which I think is a really nice thing to be able to stumble into. Okay, it's not just all like gore and violence and stuff. Like Stuber, we watched that a
Yeah.
couple of years ago. Similar thing. Like there's some real genuine connection points with people,
Hmm.
and as fun and ridiculous as the plots are, getting those moments just make it all worthwhile. So
Well, I'll give it like Paul Feig, the director. I'd say he's more hit than miss with a lot of things. He did the movie Bridesmaids. He did the movie Spy. He also did the Ghostbusters female version from 2016 or whenever that
mhm.
was. And it's like, Bridesmaids was one that when I took my wife to go see it in the theater, I was howling through that movie. And Spy's one that it showed he has the action chops to pull off something like you're watching in this movie, because there's a ton of good action in this thing. It's not
Mhm.
just good action. There's comedic moments. There's actually like parts in it where I was like, oh my god, like I couldn't believe what we were watching. And he does do nice character moments within those movies that felt genuine. The Ghostbusters one was the only one where I kind of felt like he was forcing everything in that movie, and I don't understand why it felt the way it did. The other ones felt more natural, and thankfully, this is the same way. The premise is a little sci-fi esque because of the future stuff and everything, but for the most part, John Cena and Aquafina, which some people are not fans of her, I thought she was great in this movie. She didn't go Aquafina to the 11 power. She was
Mhm.
kind of keeping it around the 5 or the 6 level in this. And I think that really helped me enjoy it more because she could scream and stuff. But when she was screaming, if it was me, I'd be the exact same tone. Like it's not like she was just constantly. It's if somebody was trying to kill her, she was making it known she didn't want to be killed in that moment, and who could blame her?
Yeah, I agree. He's as a director, like I liked this. I love Last Christmas. Ghostbusters I enjoyed, but I know like I'm not as connected to that as long like lifelong Ghostbusters fans, like the
Mm,
franchise. But like it's one that hasn't kept up as much as the other things I've
yeah,
seen from him. Um, but yeah, like he does a lot of great producing and stuff. So I wonder how much Ghostbusters was. I'm not saying he's not at fault for the things, but like how much of it was like studio interference and them trying
I
to push their
yeah,
stuff. But
I wouldn't be
yeah, it's
surprised.
great. Like yeah, him as director, and John Cena and Aquafina were great as the leads. Simu Liu was great as
Hmm.
former coworker, not competitor, but like completely outclassing John Cena as far as his business model goes
Yeah,
as a protector and everything. And the Airbnb host roommate
the
character,
woman. Yeah,
Shandy, she was great. I can't say what I've seen her in before. Like I don't know if I have seen her before. She was hysterical.
yeah,
Like
she was
she was
pretty
one of
good.
those characters you just like. I loved every moment she was on screen, but like I also hated her character.
Yeah,
But she
she was
she was great.
memorable though. For being the
Yeah.
first time I've ever seen her, she was a memorable presence in the movie, and her boyfriend too. Both of them playing off each other was really fun. And there's even a cameo from a past Office alumni, um, who
Yes.
I thought he was great in it too, because one of the things about the premise of the movie is you feel like there really is no hope for society because everybody is just in to win this lottery. And he is one of the genuine few who's like, I think this is wrong. And I actually thought it was great. And at first, I'm like, he's just saying that. He's going to do like a double, he's going to double cross her at some point. No, he really didn't. He was actually genuinely a good person throughout the movie. So that's a big spoiler if
Yeah.
you're really invested in that character, but he only shows up for about 5 minutes. So there you go. But
yeah, he's great. Yeah, it's
he
definitely
was
worth
funny.
watching. It's, you know, it's not your deep intellectual movie. Like I said, there are a couple moments that are nice and deep and connecting, but like it's a fun, you know, I don't usually like throwing this out there, but you know, I guess you would call it a popcorn flick. Like
Yes.
it's fun, it's action, you get in, you get out. It never felt like anything was dragging on.
Hmm.
Um, One last thing about John Cena's character. I don't know if we mentioned this. I apologize if you did, but he's not trying to hurt anybody. He's trying to put them down out of commission just so he can get his asset to safety.
Hmm.
But like he's like flipping all the bodies over and he's like, oh, we don't want them choking on their own tongues, or like, you
Yeah.
know, he's putting helmets on people and then kicking them out of a car, and she's like, what is with you?
No, that's what I loved about him. And when you have that moment between him and Simu Liu, and he's pushing it, like Simu's pushing it in his face, like I'm better than you at this. You're like beneath me and all that kind of stuff. And I remember like it was bringing John Cena down when you watch that. And I turned to you and I go, "This makes me love him even more because he doesn't need to brag
Mhm.
about this crap. He literally is walking the walk with her, and that's why she trusts him because she's seen what he can do." Whereas Simu's just like, oh, I got the conglomerate, the corporation, and everything's all white like an Apple store and all that back in the day. And it just felt like, yeah, this is feeling slimy, even though you make it look pristine and awesome and everything. So yeah, I
Yeah.
loved his character. He was definitely he was definitely one that if they did a second movie and they have him have to protect the next lottery winner, I'd be like, I need to see that one because I loved him in the first one. So
Yeah.
just a
I
hint, if you want
I
to do
don't
another
need a
one,
se-
Paul Feig.
but if they do another one with you know, similar, you know, creative staff and everything, like I'd give it a watch. You
Mm-hmm.
know, without waiting to stumble upon it because
Yeah.
Sean's cousin sent him a clip. Um
Thank you,
so
Alan.
yeah,
Again.
Wednesday one shot. Check out Jackpot. It's fun. Was it PG-13?
I think it was PG. It
I
might
feel
have
like
been.
might have been R. Was there a bit of language?
There was. I don't remember. I don't think there was this bad language. I think it was PG-13.
Trying to
Yeah.
pull. I've got it pulled up on, what do you call it? IMDb here. It is R for perversive language, violence, and sexual references. So, oh yeah, yeah. There's a couple. Yeah, I won't spoil it, but there's definitely a line. We'll say it's from Machine Gun Kelly and leave it
That's
at that.
right.
So,
That's
folks,
right.
enjoy that. I never thought I would care about Machine Gun Kelly just because I don't know anything about him other than he was married to Megan Fox and I guess he does music.
Yeah.
But the scene with him is great. It's fun.
He has
Um,
one of the best lines in the movie. I
yeah.
can't believe I forgot that part until just now. Yeah.
Um, I totally forgot about it until I read why it was rated R, and I was like, oh yeah, that line. So, and stay through the credits. They do a bunch of outtakes during the credits, which is always fun.
Yep.
But Sean, thanks for joining me for this Wednesday one shot, folks. Thanks for watching. And we'll see y'all next time. And Curtis, if you're watching this, we're not done with these. We just got to figure out something that we've both watched recently. See you next time. Where's my button? I don't. There it is.